is Beth Corrigan, and this is my first tidbit of educational readings that I have done, especially with technology for EDTL 6330. And really, my first one is something I was not interested in or knew nothing about until about 4 weeks ago, which is coding and this big debate that's going on right now, especially in Florida, that coding could count as a foreign language or replace the credits. So if I take a coding class and I take a Spanish class, then they're equivalent in the requirements for graduation. And I first heard about this coincidentally as I was driving to my 6120 educational technology class of classroom technology at BGSU, and I was just listening to NPR, and this story came on where there's this big debate, and it's going through the Senate, and I'll share more about it in a little bit, but where coding, the idea of coding, will be replacing a foreign language in classrooms. And so I'm just going to play just a teeny bit of this NPR cast so you can get a better idea of it.
Most technology runs on computer code, but it's not widely taught in Florida's public schools. Lawmakers hope to change that. State Senator Jeremy Rink wants students to have the option. Instead of taking French or Spanish, why not a coding language like Python, Java, or C++?
Whether you go into politics, it doesn't really matter, sales. You need to have a technology understanding in order to compete in life. And in order to compete in a professional environment.
So Jeremy Ring is one of the main senators, and I'll show you his picture here in a little bit, of pushing this bill all the way through the Florida State Senate to basically count coding as a foreign language. Now, I have only done a very minimal amount of coding in my lifetime. I did a little Minecraft, and man, it was hard. But I can see both sides of the story, and I'm going to give you more of my tidbits as I go through the articles. But I really like this one because it's NPR. They're really good at being unbiased, of just giving the facts and the issues. And of course, this is the one that really got me interested in this big issue going down in Florida. The next article I have in line is, should coding be the new foreign language requirement? And this one's from Edutopia, so pretty good here. They also give both sides of the issue, and I found some interesting stats halfway down that I wanted to share with you. It says, in fact, according to code.com, the computer programming jobs are growing twice the national average. Yet less than 2.4% of college students graduate with a degree in computer science. This is not surprising given that only 10% of high schools have computer programming classes, and only 30% of the state allow computer science to fulfill a math or science graduation requirement. So I think it's interesting, especially any of the schools I've worked in or gone to, students cannot take there's no computer science teacher. I mean, there's a teacher that teaches keyboarding or regular Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and things like that, but there's not a class for coding. And I think that America really needs to look at this, because to be competitive in the world and to be competitive in the job market, you might need coding if you're going into computers. However, you also would need Spanish language if you want to work overseas or down in Florida and down in Texas. So you can really see both sides. But this next article kind of touches on it. This one right here that says, President Obama says that we need to add more computer science to the classrooms. The United States is behind in math. We have heard this. We're behind in science. Well, we're also behind in computer science. If you go down to Silicon Valley, a lot of the people that are hired are foreigners, because we just don't have it here in the United States. Where if we had a class or a requirement that you needed a computer science coding class to graduate, it actually might be more beneficial. This article here on eSchool News talks all about how to expose your students to computer science and the benefits of it. So starting at a young age, our children today are already growing up with iPads in their hands, so how about we utilize that and start teaching them coding at a very young age where they can grasp it. Same thing with languages. You can grasp it better at a young age. Coding is the same way. Give current educators the opportunity to get certified. This is the major drawback for putting computer classes into high schools as a requirement. We do not have enough teachers to teach them. If this bill goes through in Florida, that means every single high school will have to have a computer coding class with a teacher. We don't have that many teachers to teach computer coding yet. So there needs to be another way that educators can get certified so we can meet these requirements, especially if it goes through the Florida legislature. This next article, Should Computer Coding Be Counted as a Foreign Language, is a blog by this Natalie Gross. And she does a really good job of just giving us a little bit even more statistics. So it said by 2020, countries across the U.S. will have 1.4 million jobs opening requiring computer science expertise in just 400,000 college graduates to fill them. Again, it's the job market. Our whole world is now technology based. We need these jobs to help us and to improve basically our companies here in the United States. So we have to stop having foreigners come in. Why don't we use them with Americans and in the job of coding? My final resource here is a almost video diary kind of podcast by this Chris Hawkes person. And he just basically gives another view of why this is bad. He is a computer tech coder, and he does not like this idea. And so I'm going to just play a little bit about his thoughts about this Jeremy Ring, who is the state senator pushing the legislation through Congress.
Thinks that one can just substitute the need to learn Spanish with the need to learn Python. It's probably the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Definitely the stupidest thing I've heard in the last week or so. So, not trying to be too harsh on this guy, but it's very, very concerning that we have people in the United States that are elected to state Senate seats, actual senators from the United States or congressmen and women, and they know nothing about technology. They don't even know what a programming language is. They think it's like learning Spanish and that I can just start speaking Python fluently to another Python programmer. And we have this this communication that we can just talk back and forth. And it's the same thing as Spanish or French. So.
And basically this just is saying as a computer programmer, he doesn't like this idea. The one thing I could not find in any of the resources is when I was in high school Spanish, you studied a lot of Spanish culture and how that influences language. The culture piece of coding, yes, there is a culture of all computer people together, but I think that element would be lost if there was a class or a replacement in the coding area. Nobody mentioned the culture part, but I think that would be a good debate in the future if you're really thinking about French, Spanish, and German to be replaced, or as another class, coding, because what is the culture of coding? And that's the one piece that I'm still trying to grapple with. Thanks for listening, and tune in to my next tidbit in a little bit. Thanks for listening to Coding, and hopefully you learned something new about this new concept.